How we doing? This is Fox back again for Sound Design Tutorials. Another request today. I'll just apologise for my voice. I'm full of cold, but I'll try and muddle through this if I can. The request is by Victor Emmanuel. He requested one ages ago. I did Woo2 Tech Andrus Going Down with Sylenth. He's requested this one, The Cool Cats Don't Kill My Vibe, and it's a Vintage Culture remix. There'll be a link in the description where you can compare these patches exactly, so you can hear the one I was using as a reference. Also, there's a link in the description where you can download this patch for free. So this is the sound we're going to be making today. It's with a little beat that I made. Okay, as usual, pretty close to the original, not perfect. There was a really deep sort of subby layer under this bass patch as well. It was just a pure sub again. I didn't recreate that. I've added a little bit of a sub element in part B. But yeah, as usual, I'm going to go through it step by step. So we're going to go ahead and initialize this. So if we go to part A, I kept it on a saw wave. I'll give it 8 voices unison and uncheck the re-trigger, which means all the voices are going to start at a different point. Pitched it down 2 octaves. Kept the stereo pretty much centered-ish, a little bit spread. Well, when I say centered, I meant center on the dial, but 5 is sort of half the amount of spread that you can achieve. So center on the stereo dial, detune round to about 3-ish. Volume down on this Oscillator A1 to about 7. So we're going to set up both amp envelopes for part A and B. They are exactly the same. On a tiny little bit of attack, about 0.5. Decay was just under halfway. Sustain nothing. Release around about 0.67. It's a classic sort of plucky envelope. You can control in the length of the notes with the decay. So we're going to copy that to part B, so when we work on it later on, it's already there set up. So click that C, copies the amp envelope, B, P, paste. That means amp for A and B are exactly the same. The sort of length of the notes is going to be the same no matter how you play it. Oscillator A2, I pitched it down 1 octave. This was a sawtooth as well. Only had 3 voices this time. Uncheck the re-trigger again. Same idea with the stereo, sort of halfway. Detune pretty much in the same position as well. The volume of this was ever so slightly less than A1. An octave apart, 2 saw waves, pretty much same settings, just helps fill up a lot more of the spectrum. So when we apply a filter envelope to it, you really get the quality of the high frequencies, which this sound definitely had when I listened to it. So yeah, we're going to standard low pass filter, 12 decibel per octave for part A. Cut off, we pulled all the way down really low to about 3, 2.5, something like that as a good starting point. And then we're going to use this envelope, mod envelope 1, to open the filter up and then close it off. It's the closing of that filter once it's opened initially is that what gives us the classic sort of deep house bassy sound. So we want to set this to cut off A. It was positive all the way around to maximum, pretty much around about 8, 7 or 8. And then it's a plucky envelope again, same sort of envelope style that we've got in part A. Just a little bit of release to make sure it doesn't click, and then we'll dial in the length of time we want it to close with the decay. .28, that's a good starting position. For Oscillator A, that is it. I'm going to set the master filter up now, or the general filter in the filter control. drive, key tracking. Key tracking around about 4.3. Bit of resonance helps accentuate the volume at the cutoff point, about 1. Starting point for the cutoff is around about 46, yeah. So what the key tracking does is the higher notes in this MIDI clip, which you can see, some of them are like an octave higher than the original starting note, which was an F2. Those notes, it's really going to open the filter up a little bit more and let through a lot more of the higher harmonics and frequencies. I'm also going to set key tracking to the cutoff of this filter A on its own. I know I've just set it to the master filter, but if we set key track in this miscellaneous one to cutoff A, and we're going to dial this positive as well, you're going to hear this is going to make a difference. Not much, around about 1. Means the low notes stay really quite low, and the higher ones, the higher they're played up, it lets through a lot more higher frequencies. The sound was pretty good like that. You could have left it like that in all honesty, and then created a separate sub, but I created a little bit of a lower undertone in part B. How I did it was a sine wave, 2 voices in unison, uncheck the re-trigger again, 2 octaves down. If I solo this part, you can, if you're listening for a laptop, you're not going to hear this unless you've got headphones. It's really quite deep, this first oscillator. Change it to a low pass filter, 24 decibel per octave, and we really crank it down low so that we are only letting the real low part of the sound through on this part. Stereo dead 0, so it's dead mono. Because these are making sort of the sub part of the sound, you want them to be dead centered. We're then going to want a square wave, 4 voices, and keep the re-trigger check for the square wave. This cutoff key tracking should have been for cutoff A and B. Again, really, really low, not much of a sound on its own, but when you mix it with the other part together, we're going to turn the volume of part P down. This is the sub element. I had this round about 2. Stereo on dead 0 for B2 as well, so keep it nice and centered. I noticed there was a bit of a delay on the original track that I'm comparing it to, so I added a delay. Quite a straightforward one. It was a 1/8 and a 1/4 on the left. Gave it a bit of low cut so as to filter out some of the really high frequencies. Smeared it, spread it a little bit more feedback, a little bit more width, and just pull the dry wet down. You're only really going to hear it when the notes are quite close together. You can't hear it because the delay is quite quiet, and we've cut a lot of the high frequencies out. But again, in the MIDI clip, some of these notes have quite a bit of a gap. This A sharp 2, this C3 and this D3. You can hear the delay after those ones. And then compressed it. That's it, that's the sound done. Nice and simple. I changed it to mono mode, as you would imagine with a bass patch. there you have it, lovely deep house bass with Sylenth again. Keep your requests coming in. There's a link in the description to my Facebook page. The only way I will do a request is if you send it to me as a message on my Facebook page. I'll get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day now. It's too hard for me to keep track of them because they keep getting wiped off my phone when I'm looking at them and stuff. So yeah, if you want a request, send it me through my Facebook page. Try and show you quickly. Excuse me. Send it me through my Facebook page as a message, and it comes up in here with everybody else's request. Loads for me to get through. Okay, so as always, thanks for watching. More to come.